She's just an employee. The clients don't even know her name, Nathan laughed after firing me 3 days before bonus day. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. 3 weeks later, when 3 of our biggest clients walked out the door with me, it wasn't my name he should have been worried about. It was my worth. Have you ever thought you were finally about to be rewarded, only to have everything ripped away without a word? Stay with me, because how I turned this betrayal into my greatest victory might just change how you see your own worth. 7 years of blood, sweat, and loyalty, erased by a 3-line email. My name is Abigail. I wasn't just another employee. I was the silent engine that powered the company's biggest wins. I wasn't flashy, and I didn't play politics. I focused on results, the kind that kept the lights on and the champagne flowing at board meetings. By the time I was 34, I'd built relationships with 3 of the firm's largest clients, multi-million-dollar accounts that came through my strategic planning and endless late nights. While others clocked out at 5, I stayed, fine-tuning proposals and nurturing client trust like it was a fragile flame. It wasn't ambition for glory that drove me, it was pride. I wanted to be that person, the one they could always count on. And for a while, I was. But 6 months ago, everything shifted. The company hired a new regional director, Nathan Caldwell. Younger than most of us, charming in that slick, untrustworthy way. He didn't care about history or loyalty. He cared about making bold changes that looked good on quarterly reports. From the beginning, Nathan made it clear he saw me as a threat, a relic of the old guard that he needed to clear out to make space for his new empire. Still, I tried to play it smart. I stayed focused, racking up client wins like clockwork. The 3 major accounts I managed, Evershore Capital, Brigham Properties, and Leone Tech, were growing under my care. I sent monthly performance summaries directly to the executives. I attended every high-stakes meeting. I stayed visible, professional, untouchable, or so I thought. The first red flag came when my access to internal financial reports was quietly revoked. Then, invitations to leadership meetings started disappearing from my calendar. At first, I told myself it was a mistake, a glitch, maybe an oversight. I didn't want to believe the politics had finally caught up to me. But deep down, something darker twisted in my gut. They were setting me up. When bonus season approached, I sensed the tension tighten around me like a noose. I even asked Nathan indirectly during a corridor encounter, half joking, half serious. I assume my bonus paperwork's all in order? He laughed, clapped me on the back, and said, "Of course, Abigail. We appreciate everything you do." The way he said it, too easy, too smooth, should have tipped me off. But after 7 years, you want to believe the best in people, especially when you've built your life around their promises. 3 days, 3 more days, and my bank account would have reflected the countless sacrifices I had made. 3 days, and I would have finally taken that trip I'd been postponing for years. 3 days, and the life I'd dreamed of starting felt within reach. Instead, they didn't even have the decency to fire me face to face. Just a sterile email. No final paycheck, no bonus, no goodbye. I sat there, in the blue light of my laptop screen, numb. And for the first time in years, I realized something. I had never really belonged to them. They just thought they owned me. But they had made one fatal mistake. The clients they cherished, the ones they thought they could keep without me, weren't loyal to a company name. They were loyal to me. And I wasn't going down alone. Monday morning came, and with it, the first signs that something wasn't right. At first, they were small things, almost easy to brush off. I logged into my computer and found my access to the internal financial dashboard had been revoked. A technical glitch, I told myself. It was always slow this time of year. But then I noticed I wasn't invited to the leadership meeting at 10 a.m., the meeting I had attended every Monday for the last 3 years without fail. My name was missing from the calendar. No invite, no explanation. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, a sinking feeling pooling in my stomach. Was this just an oversight, or something else? I decided not to jump to conclusions. Instead, I pulled myself together, smiled, and carried on. Clients still needed attention. Reports still needed to be delivered. My bonus, and my professional dignity, depended on me staying steady. Around lunchtime, I ran into Nathan in the break room. He was laughing with two junior managers, sipping coffee like nothing was out of the ordinary. I forced a smile and asked casually, "Hey, just checking. Everything's good for bonuses next week, right?" Nathan didn't miss a beat. He grinned wide, clapped me on the back like an old friend, and said, "Of course, Abigail. You've been a real asset this year. We're lucky to have you." The words sounded right, the tone didn't. There was something slippery in his smile, something that sent a shiver down my spine. Still, I nodded, thanked him, and walked away, pretending to believe every lie he had just fed me. But inside, my instincts screamed louder than ever. By Wednesday, the isolation grew worse. My phone, once constantly buzzing with internal calls, stayed silent. Emails I sent to project teams went unanswered. Meetings were held without me, deals closed without my input. I found out about major client updates, not through formal channels, but by overhearing snippets of conversation in the hallways, whispered and rushed like secrets I wasn't supposed to hear. The company I had bled for, fought for, and believed in was already moving on, as if I were a ghost haunting the office I used to call home. On Thursday, a colleague I had mentored for years, someone I had vouched for during multiple reviews, avoided eye contact with me in the cafeteria. She picked up her lunch tray and moved to another table without a word. It stung. Worse than anything Nathan could have done, because betrayal from the top was almost expected. Betrayal from people you cared about? That was a different kind of wound. By Friday morning, the message was loud and clear. I was no longer part of their future. I stared out the window next to my desk, watching the autumn leaves swirl in the gray light. I had spent so long believing hard work would protect me. That loyalty mattered. That if you did everything right, you'd be safe. Now I saw the truth. In this place, loyalty was a weakness. Hard work was a weapon they turned against you the moment it suited them. And worst of all, I had no idea how bad the betrayal was going to get. Yet, I didn't sleep much that Thursday night. Something about Nathan's easy smile, the cold shoulders from my colleagues, the silence that wrapped around me like a noose. It all felt too deliberate to be a coincidence. Still, when I woke up Friday morning, I brushed off the dread sitting heavy on my chest. 3 more days. 3 more days until bonus payout. 3 more days until the raise I had negotiated months ago finally kicked in. I told myself I could hold on. I wore my sharpest suit that day. The navy one, with the subtle pinstripes. It made me feel armored, invincible. I arrived early, logged in, double-checked all my client files. Everything had to be perfect. If there was any test, any last evaluation, I was ready. At 10:47 a.m., a calendar notification popped up on my screen. Mandatory HR meeting, 11 o'clock a.m. Conference room B. My stomach twisted. No one else around me moved. No one else got the invite. I walked down the hallway, the clack of my heels echoing louder than usual. Every step felt heavier, slower. I could feel eyes on me, quickly darting away when I glanced up. They knew. Nathan and the HR director were already waiting inside the conference room. Nathan smiled that same oily smile, like this was just another friendly catch-up. The HR director avoided my eyes. "Abigail, thanks for coming," Nathan said smoothly, folding his hands on the table. "I'll keep this short. As of today, your position has been eliminated due to a restructuring." My heart hammered so hard I thought they might hear it. "Eliminated?" I repeated, my voice somehow steady. "Yes." The HR director cut in, her tone mechanical. "Effective immediately. You'll be escorted out after you sign the release forms. We'll send any personal belongings to your address." "What about my bonus? My earned salary?" Nathan leaned back, feigning regret. Unfortunately, per company policy, bonuses are only awarded to employees in good standing at the time of payout. Since today is your final day, you are no longer eligible. I stared at him, the words slamming into me harder than any physical blow. 3 days. 3 damn days. I had given them years. Weekends sacrificed, family events missed, health neglected, and they couldn't even wait 3 more days to gut me. They wanted me out before I could claim a single dime of what I had earned, and they didn't even have the courage to look ashamed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I picked up the pen they pushed toward me and signed the termination papers with a hand that barely shook. Have you ever trusted a company, a leader, or a system, only to realize you were nothing more than a disposable piece in their game? If you've ever experienced that brutal moment of betrayal, I'd love to hear your story. Sometimes, sharing it is the first step to reclaiming your own power. When they offered to escort me out, I smiled. I know the way, I said quietly. Walking back to my desk felt like walking through a graveyard. People looked up, pretending surprise, pretending concern. No one said a word. I packed my things into a small cardboard box, the picture frame with my parents' photo, my worn leather notebook, a few pens, 7 years of my life, reduced to a box that barely filled the passenger seat of my car. Outside, the autumn wind whipped through the parking lot, sharp and uncaring. I sat behind the wheel, the box beside me, staring at the company's glass building one last time. I had given them everything, and they had discarded me like garbage. For a long moment, I felt hollow, not angry, not even sad, just empty. How could they? How could a place that had once praised me as the future of the firm cast me aside without hesitation, without even a conversation? But the longer I sat there, the more a different feeling started to take root. Slow, steady, cold, resolve. Because somewhere deep down, I knew the truth. They had made a fatal mistake. They thought they were firing an employee. But what they were actually losing, they hadn't even begun to understand yet. I wasn't just a name on payroll. I was the bridge to 3 of their biggest clients. I was the reason those clients stayed, signed, renewed, trusted. And bridges, once burned, don't rebuild themselves. I drove away that day not just as someone who had been wronged, but as someone who knew exactly where the cracks were in their precious foundation. They thought the story ended with my signature on those termination papers. They had no idea the real story was just beginning. I spent that weekend doing something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No emails, no client calls, no check-ins with project teams. Just me, sitting alone in my tiny apartment, the cardboard box of my former life still sitting unopened by the door. For the first 24 hours, I barely moved. I let the grief hit me in waves. Embarrassment, rage, disbelief, until there was nothing left but a strange, hollow calm. They thought they had ended me. They thought I would panic, scramble, beg for scraps. They were wrong. By Sunday evening, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a notepad and a pen, staring at 3 simple names: Evershore Capital, Brigham Properties, Leone Tech. I knew something Nathan didn't. Clients don't stay because of a logo on a door. They stay because of people. People they trust to pick up the phone, solve the emergencies, understand the nuances no one else bothers to learn. I had built those relationships from scratch. They weren't company accounts. They were my accounts. And loyalty, real loyalty, can't be reassigned with a corporate email. The question wasn't if they would follow me. The question was how to make it happen without looking desperate, without giving Nathan any warning until it was far too late. Monday morning, I sent 3 handwritten notes. Simple, personal, strategic. Hi, first name. I wanted to personally let you know that I've moved on from Caldwell Financial. It's been an incredible journey working with you. If you ever need anything, advice, support, a trusted sounding board, please don't hesitate to reach out. Wishing you continued success, Abigail. No bitterness, no direct poaching, just the seed of a thought planted carefully into minds that already valued me. Then, I waited. Not even 12 hours later, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael at Evershore. "Are you taking on new clients? Call me." A grin tugged at my lips for the first time in days. Still, I played it slow. I thanked him warmly, promised to circle back within the week. I needed to make sure everything was airtight before making any formal moves. Meanwhile, news was trickling out through the grapevine that Caldwell Financial was stumbling. Rumors of mishandled projects, delayed responses, junior staff thrown into roles they weren't ready for. It was exactly what I had anticipated. Without me quietly steering the biggest accounts behind the scenes, the foundation was already starting to crack. By Wednesday, I had private coffee meetings scheduled with representatives from Brigham Properties and Leone Tech. No pressure, just catching up. But the undercurrent was clear. They weren't happy. They didn't trust the new contacts Caldwell had assigned them. And they were exploring options. Good. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't retaliating openly. I was doing what they had taught me to do, moving methodically, quietly, and with precision. Because revenge isn't about shouting in someone's face. It's about becoming the one thing they can't control, and watching as they realize, too late, that they never had any real power over you to begin with. Nathan thought he had won. He thought the story ended when he kicked me out, but the real ending was still being written. And this time, I was holding the pen. By Friday morning, the storm finally broke. It started quietly. A curt email from Michael at Evershore Capital sent directly to Caldwell's executive team, requesting an immediate review of their service agreement. The subject line alone was enough to make a seasoned executive sweat. Urgent, service satisfaction concerns. I didn't see the email, of course, but the ripple effects were fast and furious. A former coworker, one of the few who still had a shred of loyalty left to me, sent me a screenshot from her phone with a simple caption, "You really lit the match." By noon, Brigham Properties and Leone Tech had followed, each submitting formal complaints about a lack of continuity, decline in service quality, and loss of key relationship personnel. Translation: Where's Abigail? And if she's not here, why are we? Nathan must have been blindsided. He had spent the past 2 weeks bragging about how smoothly the transition had gone, how the clients hadn't even noticed my absence. He was wrong. By Saturday, I had private offers from all 3 clients, asking if I would consider joining their new ventures or help them transition to a firm of their choosing, provided I led their accounts personally. I hadn't even signed with another company yet, and already I had leverage Nathan would have killed for. Meanwhile, inside Caldwell Financial, chaos was unfolding. I heard through whispers that Nathan called an emergency meeting late Saturday night. The senior partners, usually unreachable on weekends, were dragged onto Zoom calls, trying to understand how 3 of their top-grossing accounts had soured almost overnight. Some blamed internal miscommunication. Others suggested personality clashes between new account managers and old clients. But the truth was simpler and far more damning. You can't swap out loyalty like a dead battery, and you can't fake years of trust with a polished smile and a LinkedIn bio. By Sunday evening, it got worse. Michael from Evershore sent a termination notice to Caldwell's legal department, citing a breach of service standards. Brigham Properties and Leone Tech didn't bother with formalities. They simply stopped taking calls, stopped answering emails, and quietly pulled their portfolios. Combined, those 3 accounts represented nearly 40% of Caldwell's regional revenue. Gone. Just like that. Nathan must have realized then, too late, that the real asset he had tossed aside wasn't some replaceable middle manager. It was the bridge to everything that made the company profitable in the first place. The following Monday, my phone rang. It wasn't a client this time. It was someone from a competing firm, a place I had quietly reached out to after the dust started to settle. They wanted to offer me a position. Not just any position, a senior leadership role, full authority to build my own client portfolio, and the freedom to work directly with Evershore, Brigham, and Leone if they chose to follow. The salary they quoted was double what I had made at Caldwell. The signing bonus alone was bigger than the annual bonus Nathan had stolen from me. I accepted, of course, but on my terms. No formal announcement, no big splashy press release. I wanted Caldwell to feel every second of confusion, every client complaint, every drop in revenue, without ever knowing exactly where I had gone. Silence, after all, is sometimes the loudest form of revenge. Meanwhile, Nathan was busy trying to plug the leaks. He sent desperate emails to the clients. He tried offering discounts, free consultations, anything to slow the bleeding. It didn't work. The clients weren't leaving because of pricing or perks. They were leaving because they had lost faith. And in business, once trust is gone, it never comes back. By the end of that month, Caldwell Financial's regional office reported a staggering 38% revenue loss. Nathan's promises of streamlined growth had turned into a full-scale hemorrhage. The senior partners, furious and embarrassed, called for an internal review. Nathan's future wasn't looking so smooth anymore, and all I had to do was wait. The offer came faster than I expected. By the following week, I had 3 formal invitations from rival firms, all eager to absorb the clients I had once managed at Caldwell. One offer stood out: a boutique financial consultancy led by former Fortune 500 executives, lean but powerful, with a reputation for letting senior staff operate with full autonomy. It wasn't even a decision, really. It was a natural next move. By Tuesday, the paperwork was signed. I had a new title, Senior Vice President of Client Strategy, and a seat at the executive table. More importantly, I had the freedom to bring my relationships with me. No non-compete clauses, no gag orders. Nathan, in his arrogance, had skipped those details when he terminated me. He thought he was being clever. He was just being careless. I met with Michael, Laura, and David, the leaders from Evershore, Brigham, and Leone, in quiet, private conversations. I didn't push. I didn't sell. I simply offered them what they had lost: trust, continuity, a partner who understood their businesses better than anyone else. By Thursday, all 3 had signed letters of intent to transition their accounts over to my new firm. No drama, no drawn-out negotiations, just a clean, decisive break. When the official transfer notices hit Caldwell Financial's desk the following Monday, the fallout was immediate. Internal emails exploded. Emergency board meetings were called. Legal threatened lawsuits they had no grounds to pursue. I wasn't worried. Every document was airtight. Every client move was voluntary. Every conversation had been handled with professionalism beyond reproach. From what my contacts inside Caldwell whispered, the mood turned ugly fast. Nathan's streamlined strategy, the one he had championed in those slick boardroom presentations, had cost the company nearly 40% of its regional revenue in less than 30 days. Senior partners, who had once sung his praises, now scrambled to distance themselves. Clients who stayed behind started asking uncomfortable questions. If Caldwell could lose 3 flagship accounts so quickly, what did that say about their future stability? Doubt spread like wildfire. And through it all, I said nothing. No public statements, no gloating, no anonymous leaks to the press. I simply focused on building new strategies, building stronger relationships, building the future they thought they had stolen from me. The best revenge isn't shouting from the rooftops. It's succeeding so loudly that your enemies can't escape the sound of their own failure. Sometimes, silence cuts deeper than any accusation. Nathan learned that lesson the hard way. By the time internal investigations wrapped up 6 weeks later, he was asked to resign under the polite excuse of pursuing new opportunities. In translation, they needed a scapegoat, and he had painted a target on his own back. I heard through a mutual contact that he packed his office in silence. No farewell parties, no second chances. As for me, I signed my first 7-figure client contract that month. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I was winning, quietly, completely, without ever looking back. 6 months later, I barely recognized the life I had stepped into. My new office sat on the 32nd floor, overlooking the city skyline. My calendar was booked solid with strategy sessions, client meetings, and partnerships that challenged and inspired me. The clients who had followed me weren't just accounts anymore, they were allies. And Caldwell Financial? Whispers floated through the industry about their slow decline. Lost accounts, high turnover, eroding trust. Nathan had faded into obscurity, a footnote in a cautionary tale about arrogance and short-sighted leadership. But I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I didn't need to. Success is loud enough on its own. Every time I walked into a negotiation room, every time a client chose me without hesitation, every time my team grew stronger, I was reminded of a truth I wished I had learned earlier. Your worth is never defined by the people who fail to see it. You don't have to scream to prove your value. You don't have to beg for recognition. You just have to walk away from places that don't deserve you and keep building somewhere better. That was the real victory. Not the contracts, not the titles, not even the money. It was knowing that I never had to lower myself to their level to win. I simply had to remember who I was, even when they tried to make me forget. Standing by the window one evening, watching the city lights flicker like stars scattered across the earth, I smiled. I hadn't lost anything. I had reclaimed everything. Have you ever walked away from a place, a job, or a relationship that failed to recognize your true worth and found something better on the other side? If you have, I'd love to hear your story. Sometimes the most powerful victories are the ones we quietly build for ourselves.